We are on band number 4 today, and that is called a modified Florentine work. And so, you know, for those of you who may be watching this for the first time, we are working through a book from Jeanette Douglas Designs called Learning Stitches, and Learning Stitches Sampler, actually. And in the back of the book, she does have a full sampler, but what we're doing is we're taking each block and we're doing just a few rows of it to learn the stitch. And most of us are doing it on a piece of banding, although you may also decide to do it on a piece of linen. And I am soon going to record a video that shows you a finishing technique for the edges of the linen for those of you who decide to do that. There are also some beginning and ending bands that we created for it. You don't have to do those. It just helps identify that it was a class from Sassy Stitchery, and the date, and what we call the class, which is Learning Stitches 2020. So those two free bands are available on our website. You can just search for them under Learning Stitches, and they should come up. They are also, if you have picked the free online product and purchased it, checked out with it, which it's a zero cost, that puts you into our class group, and from that point I can track you and send you emails and keep you updated and give you access to things. And if you have already done that, then if you look under my account, you will find there the opening and closing band as well that you can download. So let's get started with band 4. It's called the Modified Florentine Stitch. You'll see that I'm working on a piece of banding, and I'm using flower thread. You can use CMC, you can use sulky. I know a lot of you are using sulky. You can use whatever you like. And I'm just going to quickly thread the needle here, and there's lots of different ways to thread a needle. But that one is my trick there. And I'm going to start with a waist away knot again. So if you've watched the other 3 videos, you've seen me do this several times. We're going to do it again. And I know there are other ways to tie knots too, but this is how I've done it my entire life, and it's hard to break that habit. So I'm going to do one more just because this banding that I'm using is a pretty large count. It's a 21 count, and we did run out of that pretty early on in the class, so we only have 28 available, but most of the 28 count's also really easy to see. So we're going to be starting over here in this upper left hand corner. So I'm going to put my away knot down here. The stitching on the back may not be enough to hold it tight, and I want to have enough to rethread. Okay, so I'm going to leave a 4 thread margin. So I'm going to, and 4 thread margin from the last band of stitches, and a 1 thread margin from the edge. So if you look here, you can see there's the 1 thread, and I'm going to count down from the thread above it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's my margin. Now, if you look at page 13 of the book, you can see the pattern, block number 4, down in the lower right-hand corner. This thread is going to be going bottom to top the whole time, or the stitch is going to be going bottom to top the whole time. So I'm going to count down another 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is the starting point for my first stitch. This is 1. And most stitches, most stitch diagrams will always show you coming up on 1 and down on 2, or up on an odd and down on an even. So that's the first where you start. Then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice I am keeping that 1 thread margin to the edge of the banding. And that's the first leg. Now, I will go ahead and say that these little oval hoops are on back order. I know a ton of you have them, and a ton of you have them on back order with us or other shops. And ooh, sorry about that. I hit the camera. Apologize. There's also another hoop, which I might show you next time, which is kind of a rectangular hoop, which I like too. So these hoops will come back in, but if you need a hoop like now, you can always choose the rectangular one. Okay, so the first stitch is over 4 threads, and let's count them to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it was. The second stitch is only over 2 threads, and it's the top 2 threads. So if we start here at the top and we come back, 1, 2. That's where we start our second leg of that stitch. Okay? Up at 1, down at 2, and you're skipping 2 threads, or you're covering 2 threads. Okay? And then the third one is back to 4 again. So it's going to start in the same place, or, aligned with your first leg of the stitch, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that's your first 3 legs of this modified Florentine stitch. Now we're going to be coming down because we're going to create a diamond shape. And in the middle of the diamond, we're going to have a long cross. So now we're going to come down 2 threads below this last stitch. So we just want to skip down 1, 2 threads and then come up there. And you're still going to go over 4 threads. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and down. And don't worry, we're going to practice this a bunch. Okay, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 4th leg of the stitch. The 5th leg also comes down 2 threads. So we're going to start right beside this one and count down 1, 2. Okay? All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And you've got one more like that. So coming down the diagonal, you have 4 diagonal legs in a row. So again, we're going to come down 1, 2 threads to start. Now count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this whole stitch, you only have on the very first one, it's just the first bar, a little compensating stitch, and it's this middle one. Now when we do this stitch later and we're doing a full stitch, that'll be a full 4. It'll be a full diamond of 4. But if we are consistent with how Jeanette started it, to make it a line, a flat row across the top, that's a compensating stitch, that little 2 thread stitch. If you didn't want to do that, you could make it 4 legs, and then they would all be the same. Okay, so now we're going to start coming back up. So to come back up, you count up 2 threads. 1, 2. And you should be aligned with where this stitch stopped, and we are. Now we're going to count 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And then we're going to come back up. So again, we're going to, here's where this leg started. We're going to skip 2 threads. Come up there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see they're lining up with their partners in that first little diamond. Okay. This one again, you're going to skip 2 threads. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now you're at the top. Now, because this is the first row, this next stitch is just 2 threads, covering 2 threads. Okay. So 1, 2, and down. If you ever get a little slip knot like that, usually you can just pull the thread. See, it's gone. Just want to be gentle with it. Don't yank it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We can start to see the diamond shape. And then we just repeat this all the way across. So from here, you can either just line up with this thread next to it, or you can count down. But you want to skip 2 threads or start 2 threads lower than where the other one started. So you are aligned with this. You want to cover 1, 2, 3, 4 threads. The next one, come down 1, 2, which does put you aligned with this partner, and 1, 2, 3, 4. I love seeing what you guys are doing with this. A lot of people have added some really beautiful modifications to theirs, and I love it. So thank you for sharing that with us. Really beautiful. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And then now we're at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see once you get going on this, it's kind of therapeutic. You start to see you know, where the stitch starts and stops, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you know, if you need to count, but you're just skipping a thread to come over, and you're skipping 2 threads from where the last one started going up. So 1, 2, and you come up here. And now you're going to cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you should be aligned with your little partner next door. Same thing here. You're skipping 1, 2 threads to start. And then you're going to cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this last little stitch is the compensating of 2. 1, 2. And then you start coming back down. It's almost like a little heartbeat. I will tell you that Bargello, there's a Bargello stitch where you're going up and down and doing this kind of work, and it looks like a heartbeat, and I love it. I love doing Bargello. And I think there's some in the bands to come. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know a lot of you guys are, hopefully all of you guys are quarantined, except for those of you who are essential and still going to your day jobs. And so we'll just consider this kind of a stitch with me thing. And I'm not going to cut out the length of time it takes to do this. I didn't on the first 3 videos, and I know it makes the videos long and it makes it painful for me to get them uploaded, but I think the repetition of it is helpful to see. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think it's reassuring in a way to know that other people make mistakes, and what I do about them when I make them. And also that, you know, there's not perfection involved here. We are still counting every time, most every time. You know, it's and you'll see me learn some things that hopefully will make it easier for you. So this will be our little stitch with me. I am thinking about doing some stitch with me stuff here in the shop. I'll be honest with you, I'm recording this on Palm Sunday, by the way, so happy Palm Sunday. It's one of my favorite religious holidays of the year. I've just always appreciated it. It's just kind of a calm before the storm in a way, and especially important this year, I think, as we're all quarantined at home for the most part. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have sent out so many books. Poor Jeanette. I know I say it in every video. But yeah, we've kept her and her printer hopping for these books, and I appreciate you guys waiting for them so patiently. I know that you want them, and trust me, they come in. We literally ship them out the very same day. We don't waste any time about getting them back out to you. So, and they got here pretty quick from Canada the last time. Fortunately, you know, goods are still moving across the border between us and Canada. 1, 2, 3, 4. And, you know, I got to see Jeanette at market, and she was just so thrilled with, you know, how many of you guys were doing this, and it was kind of a dream come true for her, which we'll get her on a video conference at some point and have a little chat with her and you. But kind of a dream come true for her to know that people were actually using this book as it was intended and learning some new stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Getting out of your comfort zone just a smidge. So, and she is just a lovely person. If you have had a chance to have a class with her, you already know that. And if you haven't, I hope you take the time in the future if you're able to travel. She's just fantastic. She will be here next year and the next year. So we had to cancel some of our classes this year. I'm still counting, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. We didn't have to. I chose to. I did it before we had to. It was the right thing to do, and it was the right time to do it. I did it right after we got back from market. It was very apparent to me that it was not going to be safe to travel for a lot of folks. So I'm sorry for those of you who were really looking forward to coming here in May and June, and now have had your plans adjusted. 3, 4. But, you know, if we all do this right and we all quarantine at home, we stay safe, there will be many other opportunities. 1, 2, 3, 4. To have classes together. And so one of those classes we did take online. I hope I'm doing this right. You know, that's one thing you always got to do is check back your book. So I'm looking back right now at page 13 to make sure that I'm not making a brand new pattern, which is okay. But I don't want to do that right now because I want us to have the same patterns. So we do still have 4 on the diagonal. We've got one little short leg at the top. We've got a full leg at the bottom because we're going to connect another one to it. So I think we're good. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, so we'll have other chances. Oh, but we were taking one online. So Mabel Took is a sampler that belongs to us at Sassy Stitchery. And she's beautiful. She has a lot of neat history. Her family does. And she's got some great specialty stitches. So if you enjoy this little class, you may decide that you want to do Mabel Took with us. And I have opened it up to other participants. We canceled the in-person. We did schedule another in-person in October for people who want to come and do her in-person, which I think is fantastic. Oh, did you see what I did there? Because I was talking to you. I skipped a stitch. All right. So there's this little compensating stitch up here. See how easy that happens? You're lost in thought. You're talking to a friend. You're watching a show. And suddenly you're frogging, which is okay. We did it easy enough. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we're back on track. So June, well, the in-person class is in October for Mabel Took. And there's a picture of her on our Facebook page and a picture of her on our website. 1, 2, 3, 4. And she has a lot of specialty stitches. I want to say she's got like at least 5, maybe 6. Bargello, rice stitch, 4-sided stitch, eyelets, queen stitch. And she's a tiny little thing. So she's very manageable in terms of her ease to complete. And none of those stitches are crazy hard. You know, I'd say the queen stitch will be the biggest challenge for most people because it's got a lot of little pieces to it, but it's a good one to learn. And if you just hate it, the flower is repeated on the other side, a similar flower in a different stitch, and you could use a different stitch for it. But learning the queen stitch, I think, will be fantastic for us all. So you can come in person and do it in October, and hopefully all this madness will be behind us with the virus that's out there. Or you can do it online with us in June. And a lot of people are doing it online. Now, that class does have a kit, so it does have a fee. And it's $100 for the class online. 2, 3, 4. That includes the booklet from Mabel Took, and it includes the linen, and it includes the silks. She's stitched in silk. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you decide you want to do her in October in person, the cost is $140 because clearly there's additional cost involved with doing something in person too, but not a lot. So still a very reasonable class and just a beautiful sampler. But that was one of the 3 that was to be taught here at the end of May, beginning of June. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's a wonderful teaching piece. I think you guys will enjoy it. Now probably, so some of you are on 28 count, and this is a 21 count, but most likely we're going to have some compensation over here, or we're going to be, in the middle of a stitch. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We won't panic. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Now, you know, like I said, this is an easy stitch to just get carried away with, like I did a minute ago. So you make sure that your stitches line up across the bottom. If they don't, you're going to have a wonky little heartbeat looking thing there, which in and of itself is beautiful, especially when you're doing Bargello. So don't feel too bad if you do, but it won't allow you to do this modified Florentine correctly. So you will need to visit with your little frog buddy and pull that out and fix it. I'm not a big fan of taking things out if I can find a way around it, but with these stitches, we want them to be the same. For the teaching part, now when you get out there and you're doing your own thing, do your own thing. I love it. I love seeing what you've done. I love the colors. I love the modifications. I love the personalizations. It's just so much joy to me to see it, and I just really appreciate you guys for sharing it. Okay, so here's where we are. We now we can make one more stitch and we're at the side. All right. Because here's our 1 thread margin. And I think we will make that one more stitch. You can choose to do however you want. If you're on 28 count, you're going to have more than one more. And that's going to be okay. So now that takes us from side to side in this, you know, modified Florentine. So you've got a little compensating stitch here at the top, this little 2-leg guy. That's so that you have a straight row across. You could have dropped down, you know, 2 more threads between these two and made a full one up there. It would have been okay. And so when you're doing yours, you can choose to do it either way. If you follow the instructions in the book, you're going to be right here with a little 2-thread stitch. If you give yourself an extra 2 threads of margin between these 2 bands, then you can take those extra 2 threads of margin and make that a full diamond up there. Look what I did. And you guys didn't tell me. I was talking again. Okay, let's fix it. Can you see what I did there? It would look like this, except it would have one more if you were doing a full diamond. I forgot my little 2-legged guy there. I'm not thinking about doing that compensating stitch when I'm just in my mode. Now, when I take out stitches, a lot of times I'll unthread the needle and do it this way. And if you have a delicate thread, this is a cotton flower thread, and I will tell you it's pretty durable. But if you had a really delicate thread that you didn't want to pierce, you might use the eye end of your needle instead of the pointy end, so that you were sure not to pierce it. This is a pretty loose weave banding, so I wasn't too worried. Okay, let's go again. What was that I was saying about it's good to see people make mistakes? And they do happen pretty easy. Okay, now we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we still want to leave our 1 thread margin, so I get to come down one more stitch. And can you see how there's still that 1 thread margin, and then we get into the weaving on the side of the linen? 4. All right, now, okay. So, what was I saying about being at the end of the band? So we're at the end of this band. I'm actually going to switch threads, and I'm going to do the bottom part of the diamond coming across. And on mine, because I am just going to do this one set, I'm going to snub the end of it at the bottom too. So it's going to have a little 2-thread compensation going at the bottom. In the book, you'll see that she does more, and so she has a full diamond. And you can do it either way you want. So I'm going to end this, and I will be back. Okay, we're back. I didn't show you how I ended that. I'm going to show you how to thread this needle again here. And then I'll flip it over and show you the end. I just ran it under a few threads, just like we've done on the other ones. And then I clipped off the away knot and did the same thing with that one. So I will do an away knot on this one too. Okay, so let's look at the back. So all I did when I finished is I just ran it up and down. Now I'm careful not to pull too hard because I don't want to distort the stitches on the front. I clipped off the away knot and I did the same thing. I ran it under a few threads. And if you look at the front, they do not look distorted. They look fine. So, okay. So now we're going to start with blue, and we're actually going to do the bottom part of the diamond. And if you're looking at page 13, you'll see, you know, how Jeanette shows that in her book, in her lesson. Now, when we get to the bottom part of our diamond, I'm going to snub it here, just like I did the top, just so it matches. You could, again, you know, make yours the full 4 threads. However you would like to do that. So, if you look at the picture on page 12, you'll see why I'm doing that, because I'm only doing this one set across. She did several sets, but on the top and the bottom one, they are snubbed. They're compensating stitches there on the top and the bottom row. So if you do more than this, you can, you know, do yours however you want. Just choose some guidance from the book. So again, I'm going to put my away knot way over here so that I have enough to rethread my needle. And then I'm going to come up here. Now, this bottom diamond is going to share this stitch in the center. So we won't be stitching that stitch. It's already stitched. So we could stitch here and work back, but then we'd have to weave up and come back down and over. I'm just going to count down. So there are 8 threads between where this stitch starts and where this next bottom stitch ends. So I'm going to just count down from underneath 8 threads. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now don't come up there because that's where the stitch ends. Now we need 4 more threads because that's what the stitch is going to cover. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you come up there. Now I'm going to count these again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I need 4 more for the stitch to cover. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's right. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. Now we're started. So now you are following, you know, a different diagram. So just like at the top though, this bottom one on mine is just going to be just going to cover two threads. See, I almost did that wrong. It's very tricksy there. So we're going to start beside it. And it's going to cover 2 threads. 1, 2. Now, if you're doing a full diamond, you can skip down and do the whole 4 stitches like I almost did. And then we're going to start beside it again. And basically, I'm just mimicking the top, but going in reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. And then you're going to come up 2 threads. 1, 2. So I'm right in the middle of this stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. Okay, and again, we're going to start 2 threads up. So right in the middle of your stitch, count up 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's a shared hole, and down, and that's right. So that's the first little diamond completed. And you're not restitching this stitch here. You're going to come over, and you're going to mirror your partner there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Now from this one, you come down 2 threads. 1, 2. So let's look at what we did here. A year in review. We counted down 8 threads from the bottom of that stitch, and then we counted down 8 threads got you here, and then we counted down 4 more threads so we could start here. We're always going bottom to top, bottom to top, bottom to top, right? And so then we went over 4 threads and we ended. And we started right beside this one rather than jumping down here, because I'm only going to do this 1 row of diamonds. You may choose to do more, and if you want to do more, then you can elongate that middle leg to be the full 4 thread coverage. And that's okay. And you can see that instructional diagram in the book. So, and then we started going in the same pattern. You know, we come up 2 threads, go over 4, come up 2, go over 4. We skip this joining leg because we've already stitched it. We come over here, and bottom to top, we start with our partner thread, and we go over 4 threads. Then we come down here and we skip 2 threads. We're going to count up 4 and go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. Okay. Same thing here. We're going to come down 2 below it, 2 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. That should be right in the middle, and it should line up with the end of this thread here. Now this next little leg is compensating for me, and it's over 2 threads. 1, 2. One, 2, 3, 4. So I'm basically just following the pattern above. So I'm going to come in 2 threads. 1, 2. Make sure you don't accidentally just do 1 thread. You want to stay with the 2 to 4. Alright, so it's even with this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and come up 2 threads. 1, 2. It's right in the center, and it's even with that other one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you skip the joining stitch, and you basically just do the stitch you just did again. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you join that one above it. Come down 2, 1, 2 to start, 2 from where this one started, and then count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the same thing again. You come down 2 from where that one started. So 1, 2, and then you cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is the compensating leg for me. It's just covering 2. 1, 2. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come up 2 threads from where the last one started. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you'll notice that I'm still working over a piece of black linen so that I can see these holes through this white linen. If you're working on the natural colored linen, you might try a white pillowcase underneath it. See what you like better, white or black. Usually the darker fabric, if you're working on darker fabric, you want something white underneath it. And if you're working on lighter fabric, you want something dark underneath it. It makes the holes more visible. Okay, so I started here again in the center of this one. 2 threads up from where I started before. And I'm going to cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah? Okay. Oh, did you see what I did there? See? Gotta be careful. No stitch there. Because that's your joining leg. No stitch there. So you skip over and you just do a partner leg for the last one. Skip over 2 threads from your last one, or 1 thread from that joining stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could come in the center and count down 4, but you want to always be going bottom to top. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a rule that you also follow in some other type of embroidery that we'll learn eventually. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you were going to do hard anger, you would always be consistent in your path because you'll be cutting some threads between them. This is the compensating leg. It just covers 2 threads for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to come up 2 threads. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, at the end of this video where we always do a little bit of a variation, skip the joining stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. I will show you a full diamond. Come down 2 from where the other one started and cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can hear the birds outside. Can you hear them? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a nice sound. Here's a compensating stitch. 1, 2. One, 2, 3, 4. I really enjoy doing this, and I'm just so appreciative to you guys for letting me do it with you and participating. 1, 2, 3, 4, and letting me know that you're participating. That's huge too. I just really appreciate it. I appreciate all the encouragement and all the feedback. I know this is a challenging time for all of us. I'll be honest, I'm definitely very anxious about all of this, and needlework soothes the soul for sure. It's hard not to be with your friends in person. It's hard to be worried about your friends and about yourself and your family. And we will all do the best we can and just get through it. Separate but together in spirit. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. And I think the focus that it takes us to do needlepoint, 1, 2, 3, 4, it gets our minds off some things. There's so much stuff in the news right now, it's hard to see. I know those of you who are in other countries around the world, many of you have been dealing with this for quite a long time. You certainly have our thoughts and prayers. And, we wish you and your family safety through this as well. One, 2, 3, 4. But I do think needlework is a very healthy thing for us right now. It does make us focus. And you feel productive. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. These stitches have been used for many generations. And it's really neat. You'll start to see them in pictures of, artwork from many moons ago. For example, you'll see this modified Florentine, I'm sure, in some, artwork or textiles from the 16 and 1700s. There's no doubt. Okay, we're getting close to the end of mine because I do want to keep my 1 thread margin. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's nice. So on mine, I ended with the stitch that just ends together, which is really nice. Isn't that pretty? I think that's just so pretty even like that. And I know these are gaudy colors, like I said before, but they're to show you where the stitches are. And I love that you guys are using some variegated floss and you're blending, and yours are so pretty. And my personal one is a little different from this, but this is a great teaching tool. So you can see this stitch that's a shared stitch. You can see where these two stitches join. If you're on a 28 count again, you're going to have more over here. But I just think that's so pretty. You could put a bead in that. You could put a different stitch in the middle. We're going to put that long cross in it to stay consistent with the diagram. But when we do our modified one at the end. We may do something different in there just for fun. Okay, so I'm going to end this one off. I will show you how I end it this time. I want to be greedy with that. So I am going to run it back through stitches of the same color. And it's kind of hard to do with this little hoop. And again, you want to not be careful not to pull too hard on the back, because if you pull really hard on the back, you'll disturb the stitches on the front. And that's something you want to be mindful of. And these are pretty loose on the back, so I am going to go through another little set here. Having trouble getting it under because I'm hitting the hoop on the back. There we go. Okay. My fancy $6 bow and scissors. So. Okay, so now this is the back of my away knot. I'm going to snip it really close down there. Oh, I didn't even snip it. I'm going to cut it off because I want to thread the needle with it. That's the knot. And I want to run this under too. Sometimes, even though I used, as long as I could get it, it's not always long enough, especially if you've got big hands and big fingers like mine. But we got it. Okay. And so now I'm going to turn this around. So I'm coming at it at the same angle. I'm going to run this underneath these guys here. And if you have little ones at home, you can teach them to stitch. I learned to sew. I learned to stitch embroidery when I was about 6 years old. I'm sure my mom had me doing other things when I was about 4. Kids want to learn. They want to be busy with their hands. And so, you can modify. You can just give them any piece of cloth with some, needle and thread, and try to use a tapestry needle that's not got a sharp point so they're not jabbing themselves. And just let them play with the needle and thread. It doesn't have to be perfect. And they don't have to necessarily follow a pattern. They can make their own pattern. In fact, that would be fantastic, is to, one way to do it is to take a cookie cutter and draw a shape around a cookie cutter. And then you can let them try to stitch that shape. And it doesn't matter if it's great big huge stitches. It doesn't matter whatever, it's just fun for them. And if they, feel kind of confident with it, you can have them draw a little picture on the cloth that's pretty big, or you can help them draw it, or you can draw it for them, and then let them stitch that in the same colors that they drew it in. I think that's always great. And you can just use scrap thread, and help them learn some dexterity with their hands and some hand-eye coordination, and start to learn a little bit of comfort and joy from needlework as well. Okay, so we've got that done. Now the last part is the long cross, which we're going to put in with red to be consistent. So I'm going to thread up and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm using a leftover piece of red floss or flower thread. We'll see if it's long enough to get us through all this. If not, we'll learn how to stop and start. I always like to let you watch me thread because I know some of you are trying to learn this trick. But again, I put it on the fat part of my non-dominant index finger. And I'm kind of pushing up with my finger at the same time I'm pulling down with the eye of the needle. And I've got it lined up right on top of my thread. And then as soon as it pokes through a little bit, I stop and I reach down and pull it through. Okay. So now, this cross covers 6 threads. I'm counting in the book. It covers 6 threads, bottom to top, and it covers 2 threads side to side. So you can also see that on page 13. And, this is a really pretty one if you're, decorating something that you might cover a stool with, or on a curtain, or, whatever. I'm not going to do an away knot in this one. I'm actually going to run it under on the back. And I'm going to run it under this blue thread here. Now, that's annoying, and we do that a lot. Sometimes I come back and I catch a second thread here, and I don't pull real hard when I do that. deal there, because that's that can really distort on the front. So I usually try to just catch one thread, and I caught two with that. But okay, so this is going to be right in the center. It's going to be right through here on all of these, and it needs to skip 3 threads. It's also going to be bottom to top. You want to skip 3 threads from where this guy finishes, and that's where you want to come up at. So if I start here and I count 1, 2, 3, I have skipped 3 threads from where this middle leg finished, and I'm going to count them. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'm going to cover 6 threads with this stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to go down. Now I'm going to check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it should leave me 3 threads from this one. 1, 2, 3, and it does. So it's placed perfectly. Now the stitch that goes across the center, you're going to have to start 3 threads up from the bottom of where you started. So we started here. 1, 2, 3. You see how I'm counting beside it? And it so happens that this stitch covers 2 threads. So it's going to cover this thread on this side and this thread on this side. So let's do that again. I counted up. I skipped from where this thread came out. 1, 2, 3. And I came up 1 thread beside it. I skipped 1 thread from where this leg lays. And I'm going to skip over 2 threads. 1, and then here's the other one. 2. I know that's a little hard to see. It puts you right in the center of the stitch. But just think about the fact that you want to be right in the center. And so if you need to get in the center, you can come over here to these 2 legs, and you can make sure you're centered between them, which would be 1, 2, and then 1, 2. There's 4 threads between those 2. You want to be right in the center, and you want to cover 2 threads. So you're going to be covering from this leg to this leg. So it's just a long cross. That's all there is to that. And that's really pretty, isn't it? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do on the back is I'm not just going to like skip down here. I'm going to run this thing under. And so I am sitting over here, and it's kind of weird. And I'm going to kind of run it under over in here. Okay, to give it some security. It's still going to look bad on the back, but it's going to give it a little bit of security to where you don't have a long thread hanging back there. Okay, now same thing. I'm going to skip 3 threads from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to cover 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that should put me 3 threads from the top. 1, 2, 3. And it does. Okay. So the last time we did this, we went from right to left. And that's how Jeanette shows us in the book. We go from right to left. Well, because I'm traveling left to right, I'm actually going to flip that, and I'm going to go left to right with this cross part, because it puts me closer to the other side, which is where I need to be. So again, it starts right in the center, and you can tell now you're going to be lined up with that one, or you're going to be, 3 threads up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 threads up from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to go down 2 threads over, but you're going to be right in the center. Okay. So I counted 4 threads because I was counting off this stitch. If you're going to count on the cross, you're 3. 1, 2, 3. I hope that didn't confuse you. You can count off so many things in here, and you can be a little bit flexible with that. But the key is to make sure that you are lined up and that you are in the center. Okay. Now on the back, again, I'm going to run underneath a little bit just to give some security to this thread. It's not just hanging out there. I'm not going all the way down because I don't start all the way down. I start right in here. Okay. Everybody with me? All right. So now from the center bottom, I'm going to count up 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to cover 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and go down. Now I'm going left to right with the center cross because I'm traveling left to right and I want it to be easier. So you come up here and you're directly lined up and you're 1 thread off of where your first leg is, and you go down there 2 threads over, right? And it is perfectly aligned. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to kind of run underneath a few threads on the back like that. Flip it back over. Now I don't have my little, let me get that. So this is called a peel, and we do sell these. They're not online. I'll put them online, but they come from the quilting world, and we sell them for $1. And they help you manage this extra linen. You have to get it over the hoop on the front and the back, kind of. There we go. You see how it is on the back? It's over the hoop. Okay, so I have already ran this under on the back. I'm going to count up 3 threads from the center. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to go over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you don't like this long cross in the middle and you want to do something different, okay, do something different. You can put a big cross stitch in there. If you know how to do a rise stitch, you could put a rise stitch. You've probably got room to put an eyelet in there. I mean, there's no hard requirement on this. You can do what you'd like to do with it. Okay, here we go again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is, you really do need to count that middle leg, or you may end up with it being off a little bit. Okay, it's easy just to go ahead and make the jump over there, but I do like to run it under. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we make a little cross. Okay. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get this fourth video out. The third one was done before we even went to market, which was a month ago. And then I had a lot of trouble getting it posted. 1, 2, 3. Even had to buy a MacBook. And then I had to learn how to use a different version of iMovie. 3, 4, 5, 6. So it was quite involved, and getting videos transferred from spot to spot. So I apologize that one took so long. And then, of course, all this stuff happened with having to take the shop online and, change a lot of things about how we did a lot of things. It's just taken me a little while to get a little window of time to do this in. So apologies for being a little bit late. We'll try to be back on track. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 3. I'm gonna split that thread. See how that looks pulled? I don't like that blue thread looking pulled like that. It's not somehow not tight enough or something. Something has happened there. It's actually this finish that I did before. I'm gonna pull that a little bit tighter. That looks a little better to me. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On a linen that's woven this loosely, it's tough to get these stitches to finish off nice. On your 28 count, most of you have, you'll have a lot easier time. Okay, that's the last one. So I'm just going to finish that on the back in a minute, but I just want you to see that. I just think it's really pretty. It's very appropriate for Palm Sunday. I'll show you some different things to put in the middle as we do the next part of this. Again, on the next part, I'll show you making this a full diamond instead of a kind of a snub diamond there. If you were going to do, you know, multiple rows of this stitch would be 4 long, and it would be a joiner just like this. It wouldn't be 2. And so you have the book if you decide you want to do that. So I enjoyed it. I think that's really pretty, and that's the right size for consistency for the bands that I'm doing on this practice piece. So I'm not going to do more of it there. I'm going to flip to the other end of it and show you some modifications to it. But that is a modified Florentine stitch, and I hope you like that. That's a pretty straightforward one. So hang with me. I'm going to finish my thread and get rethreaded and start on the other side where I've been doing some fun stuff and show you some options for that one. So be right back. Okay, we're back. I have threaded up. I'm using some sulky thread, and it's one of my favorite colors. It's one of the ones that I pulled for the squirrel, to do the squirrel on my other one. I don't remember why I have that piece of felt in there, but we won't worry about that. I don't know. But this is the red and the brown and the tan and the gold that I used for the squirrel, and I had this one pulled to do some other fun stuff with. So, and I was matching it to 817 DMC. So, okay. So, I am going to start with an away knot. And I'm going to put this, I'm going to put my, these are our practice stuff from other things, if you remember. I'm going to put my thread peel back on here. Okay. And I also know that some of you are looking for banding. I'm going to post some more banding today. So by the time you see this video, these little peels will be out there for you, along with some more banding if you need banding. Okay. So now we can start doing wherever we want to with this. So we go bottom to top again. So I'm going to start over here. I'm actually going to make the first stitch be the edge. You know what I mean? Like it'll be a diamond edge. So I'm going to skip down a little bit. And I am going to skip over one thread for the margin. So you'll remember that. Right. All right, so I have an away knot over here. I've came over here. I've skipped one thread on the margin. I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm starting with the edge of the diamond because I just wanted to. And then I'm going to start in the center of that stitch, which is 2 threads, either, you know, down from the top or up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cover 4. Now on this one, I'm going to do a full stitch in the middle. I'm not going to do that compensating stitch. So again, I'm starting into 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you might notice that this sulky looks a little thin on this 21 count. It kind of does. I think it looks great on the 28 count, which is what I'm actually stitching my other one on. So if you're using sulky, I'm sure it looks beautiful on your 28 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's our 4th diagonal. That means that the 5th one is going to be the top, right? So I'm going to start in 2 threads. Now this time, instead of doing a little short 2 thread leg, I'm going to do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And then I'm going to start coming back down. I'm still going bottom to top. So every leg on this diamond is 4 threads. Covers 4 threads. Right. And this sulky that I'm using is a variegated sulky. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you wonder about these scratches you see on my hand, they're almost gone. My cat forgot that I was not a cat. So he's very particular. I've got a couple cats, but Quinn is my indoor cat. He's a little black cat. He's very particular, and he's so careful not to ever hurt me. He hardly ever steps on me, although lately he's been doing that more, I think, because he wants attention. He hardly ever scratches me. He's just so gentle with me. And I was tickling his belly, and as cats might do, he tickled back. About a week ago. He forgot. And I am allergic to cats. Okay, so isn't that pretty? So that you can start to see the variegation here now. Now I'm going to start going back up. I am allergic to cats, and I did not know that until I was in my 20s. And I got a cat for the first time from a friend who was moving away and needed a home, and we took 2 because that's how we do things. And as soon as I brought those cats into my apartment at the time, I couldn't breathe, and so I had to go on medication, and I've had to take medication ever since for allergic asthma. 1, 2, 3, 4, because I'm allergic to my beasties. Right now, we only have one in the house. I have 2 brothers, and they're both polydactyl. They have, polydactyl means that they have extra toes and claws, and they both do. They're really kind of cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they were kind of hard to place. Like, when I adopted them, I was really only going to get one, and the shelter asked me to take them both because they were brothers, and they were the last 2 left. And I guess people were worried about them because they were polydactyl. And one of them is black. Of course, any black animal is always the last to be adopted, whether they're cats or dogs, and especially cats. And so they came home, and they got renamed to Seamus and Quinn. Good Irish names. And anyway, they're fabulous, but only Quinn is indoor right now. I took them both to St. Croix with me when I moved to St. Croix before I moved home. I took a job in St. Croix in USVI to help me transition home financially, and they sold my house and everything like that for me where I was living, and I worked down there a couple of years. But I took them both over there with me, and they loved it. They caught geckos and frogs inside the house. They stayed inside. But when I brought them back, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa, see, I did that wrong. Talking. I didn't come up 2 threads. You have to come up. Something else is wrong here. Let's take a look at this. Down 2, down 2, 1, 2. We are not even. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. These 2 are even. These 2 are even. These 2 are even. These 2 are even. We need one more. Yeah. It still doesn't seem right, does it? 2. This one's too long. There it is. Okay. Talking. That can happen. I knew it didn't look right. Okay. So let's count this thing. So from here, I want to come down 1, 2 threads. How about that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Back on track. And then we need one more. So we're going to come down 2 threads underneath that one. So that just goes to show you, you can't always do it visually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Especially if you're talking. Anyway. These guys are fabulous. I love them. But one of them is an outdoor cat now. 2, 3, 4. When I got them back here to North Carolina, we had a little issue. One didn't want to be around the other one. 2, 3, 4. They reached maturity. They actually had done that when I was still living in Cary, North Carolina. Started to fight, as brothers will do. And it was just exasperated by the move and stuff. So anyway, one of them's an outdoor cat, but he loves it. He lost a lot of weight, and he just really enjoys it. And there's another cat out there that was Everett's, my husband's cat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And she is an ancient little kitty, and she is so interesting and just a neat cat. She is a tiny, tiny cat. 2, 3, 4. And she can catch a bird midair at 16 years old. It's just amazing. She got sick a couple months ago. My husband really didn't think she was going to make it. She was not eating anything, and she was sick to her stomach when you put food around her, and she was just really thin and weak. And my husband grew up on a farm. So he, as is true in nature, everything has its season. And Anyway, he thought Marmal was going to die. That's her name, Marmal, like caramel, only Marmal. And I asked him if he would let me take her to the vet just to see if there was anything they can do. And she is healthy as I don't know what now. She's like just very back to normal. It took a while. It took about 3 weeks. She had some kind of GI infection or something. And a cold. She was sneezing a lot. I think she's got allergies. It's interesting to watch your pets. Like, I've got allergies right now, too, which is why my voice is a little crusty. But she's got allergies. She's got a little bit of asthma, and she wheezes certain times of the year. And my little black cat, Quinn, he sneezes. So he was sneezing a lot last week, which was a little scary. I started sneezing, too. And, of course, right now with what we're all facing every day with the virus, sneezing is concerning sometimes. Anyway, I knew I had allergies, and I knew he had allergies, so we were allergy ridden together. So I'm just doing the top part of this diamond here for you. And I know that this is a more delicate colorway, so you're not able to see it as well. And this thread is actually a little thin for this linen, but we are going. We are going to keep moving with it. And it is really pretty on a denser count, like a 28. Because you'll get to see it on my other one. And I love dogs too. Don't think I'm just a cat person. I had 2 giant golden retrievers. Bonnie and Clyde. They were brother and sister too. And they were just amazing dogs. I love those dogs. They both died before I moved to St. Croix, a year apart. And that was hard. And I honestly have not been in the same place long enough to get dogs again. I am now, obviously. But I'm just so busy right now that I just don't think I could do them justice. So we're hoping to get another dog sometime relatively soon. My husband loves dogs. He's definitely a dog person. I'm equal opportunity. I love them both. I really do. I especially love it when they can cohabitate. My golden retrievers, Bonnie and Clyde, they were big dogs. They weren't overweight. They were just massively huge dogs, and they were kind of reddish. For a golden retriever, they were pretty red. People used to ask us if they were Irish setters. There were a lot of redheads in the house back then because we had a little cat that was also a redhead. There were 4 of us. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. But Clyde, when we got those dogs, we intentionally put them around our cats at the time. And Sassy Jack was one of our cats then. And, or Sassafras Jack is what her real name was. And we, intentionally got the cats to swat the dogs a little bit. So the dogs would be a little afraid of the cats. And we lived in harmony like that for a long time. But there was a point there where the female dog would stare at the cats and drool. And that was very unnerving. She really wanted to eat those cats. Now, the male dog was petrified of the cats. And Sassafras was a very tiny little cat. She was kind of overweight, but she was a tiny little cat, even overweight. And in one of the houses that I had, there were 2 ways to get through the kitchen. And Clyde would not walk past Sassy. He would stand there and whine. He would walk halfway around the house to get to the other side, to come through the kitchen from the other direction, to not have to pass by that tiny little cat. And he weighed like 90 pounds. She weighed maybe 7. It was the funniest thing ever. It was great. So I miss my dogs a lot, actually. So you see what I'm doing here. You see me counting. You don't hear me counting, but you see me counting. You heard me count on the other one. I'm counting 4 threads every time, 2 and 4. Because I'm coming down 2 or coming up 2, and then I'm covering 4 threads. Okay, now I'm to the end. I'm on a 1 thread margin. So I've got 1 more stitch, and here's my 1 thread margin. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm going to end it right there. And that's really pretty. Now that could also be a bargello stitch. If I came right underneath it and just did more just like that, that would be bargello or flame stitch. Just be beautiful. So, okay, so now I'm going to use the same thread to make the bottom part of this modified Florentine. So I'm actually not going to end off. I'm going to weave down, and then I'm going to count. I'm going to come down this way, and then I'm going to weave back up, and then I'm going to start going to the left. Okay, so it's kind of funky. I really could end it if I wanted to, and then come down here and start and blah, 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 but it would be virtually the same weaving to start and end the thread. These stitches are not that easy to do with a pin stitch. You can't, I know a lot of you know how to do a pin stitch, or maybe you don't, and I'll show you one day. I know I've said I would, but the ending and starting for these stitches doesn't lend itself that well to pin stitch, which is why I haven't shown you. So I'm going to run underneath on the back here. Okay, so I got to the center stitch on the back, and I have not ended this thread. Now I'm going to start this. If you remember from the first one that we did, this center leg is shared. So I'm actually going to be starting, I'm still going to go bottom to top, but I'm actually going to be starting down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That shares a hole. And then I'm going to come down 2 threads from this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll start to see this take shape again. Come down 2 threads. Cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, you know, because I'm doing full diamonds, come down 2 more. Cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Now, I'm going to run underneath till I get back up here, and then I'm going to start going down, and then we're going to be good, okay? So let's do that together. And again, you know, these aren't real tight stitches, so treat it delicately. Don't yank on it when you're running underneath anything, or you'll distort it on the front. Okay, so from over here, it's a mirror of this one, of its little partner stitch right here. All right, so it comes down 2 underneath this one, and it covers 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it should end in the same hole of the one above it. Now, for the next one, I'm going to drop down 2 underneath where that one started and come over 1 and count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 2 underneath where that one ended, come over 1 and count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 underneath where that one ended, and come over 1. Let's check that, because I waffled around in there some. 2 underneath, and over 1, and count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This banding is really long, and I'm having to, it's bothering me. Okay. That was the center stitch. So let's count our diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we count that one, and that's right. And if we track this one down from the center above, it's directly in the center. So that's our center stitch. So now we start to go back up. So we're going to count over 1 thread and up 2. 1, 2. Now we're going to cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I will have to start a new thread before I get to the edge of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Come up over 1 and up 2, and then go over 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on the back, remember I said in another video that I've always got my finger back here, and I do. I can feel this thread. I can help move this needle. I know what's going on the back of this because I'm touching it the whole time with my non-dominant hand. So you should be doing the same. And that's the reason you want to stitch in a hoop where your hands can touch on the back. You know, unless you're using a stand. 2, 4. All right. So you skip this stitch because that's your joining stitch. That's your shared stitch. And you come down 2 threads from the bottom of that one and over 1. And then you go over 4 threads again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Okay. Again, 1, 2 down, 1 over. And then you cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting a lot more on this bottom because it's harder. 1, 2, and over 1. It's just harder. You can't visualize it like you can when you're going across the top, although you saw me make mistakes doing that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be right in the center there. Okay, 1, 2, and over 1. Now, let's just check and make sure that we are right in the center, and we are. This is our center stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And now you're going to start going back up. So you come up. 1, 2. Now you see me twisting my thread sometimes. You can also turn it over and let it dangle, and it will untwist itself. You know, depending on what you do with your needle, when you pull it on the back, 2, 3, 4. Most people twist it. You see how I pulled it and then I turn my hand. I don't know if you can see me doing that, but I pull it and then I turn my hand. That's putting a twist in the thread. Now, I've got a friend named Bonnie who will intentionally untwist it to keep that from happening. I try to do it on the front side. 1, 2, 3, 4. But Bonnie does a good job with keeping her thread untwisted. Bonnie Moak is her name. And 1, 2, 3, 4. She's a Michigander, so we hope they're doing okay up there. 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you don't somehow, 1, 2, and over 1, take care of that twist in the thread. Every once in a while, you're going to have to stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let it dangle or untwist it. Okay, 1, 2, and over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, my thread's getting pretty short. I am intentionally going to do the middle stitch, then I'm going to stop. 1, 2, and over 1. This is the middle stitch on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know that because it's right underneath the middle stitch on the top and because it's 5 from where these meet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 threads I cover with it. Okay? That's at the center. That's a good place to have to start a new thread. So I'm going to flip this over on the back. I'm going to run it underneath. And these are pretty loose stitches, so I'm going to take it all the way up into the upper. And I feel pretty good about that. I don't think that's coming out. Okay, now I need to rethread. This is what the sulky thread looks like. That's what it looks like on the spool. Isn't that pretty? And if you want to know the color of it, the color of this is Magic 4006. I love this one. So on these sulky spools, on the ends, it gives you the number 712 dash and then another number. The 712 is the type of thread. So 712 is not part of the number, it's the type of the thread. And then beside it, there's a dash, and then it says 4006. There are 50 yards of thread on this spool. And this spool is currently like $1.69. $1.70 here. So it's a ton of thread, and it is really pretty when it's on the right linen. So I think it's pretty on this too. It's just more delicate, but on a 28 count or a 32 count, this is gorgeous. And you see how I pulled that end up? Both ends do that. And so it's just like the 103 in a Veriswa silk, if you've ever stitched with that. Okay, so I'm going to roll it back in there, push that down. See, and it holds it for us, which is nice. Snip it, and then that can go back in my little bag. Okay, so now I want to think about which end of this I'm going to start on, because I might look at it on the front. Okay, so this end is just a smidge darker. This is a little more orangey, and this is more in keeping with where I ended. So this is going to be the end that I start to stitch with first, which means it's going to be the long part of the tail. So now, remember, this was the one I wanted to stitch with in my hand, so I'm going to keep it on the long part of the tail because that's where I want to start. And I might not get it all because I have to run under, but that's okay. And so you want to be kind of careful because you're running under the same way you came out, which is not advisable. And I could probably lay it and stitch over it, or I could do an away knot or something, blah, 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 but I think this will be just fine. Yeah, very good. I'm real careful so I don't pull it out. Okay, now we go. So that was the center stitch. So I'm going to come up 2 and over 1 from where that ended. And I've got my finger on the back of this. I'm pretty careful not to pull it through, although I might. And I did, because there was something else back there. There's a little piece of thread right there. That threw me. All right, so we go again. Real live TV here, sort of. Okay. Now, if you want to be sure, you can tuck it under one. But again, you want to make sure that you're not distorting anything on the front, because these are long, kind of thin stitches. So I don't have that pulled real tight. Okay, let's try again. All right, so we're going to come over 1 thread and up 1, because we are going back up the diagonal now. Okay, that's a nice little firm. I'm not yanking it, but there's tension there, so I know I'm done. And I've got my finger on the back right now. I can feel it. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And you come over a thread and up 2 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can still see a color change there. It's okay. It won't matter. You can see it up here too. It's fine. Okay, so over 1 thread and up 2. And then cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you should meet back up with that leg above it, and we do. So we're right on track. The next stitch is a shared stitch. We don't have to do that one. So we're going to come from this shared stitch over 1 thread and down 2. That's where we're going to start. And it should, be aligned with our partner beside it. And then cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then over 1 and down 2. And I know I've counted this a bunch of different ways because you need to find the way that works for you. There's as many ways to count as there, I don't know what you would say with that, but there's a lot. Falling down on my southern colloquialisms, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fish in the sea, maybe. Over 1 thread and down 2. Now this should be the center leg. And let's check. It does line up with the center leg. So, and we are over 1 thread and down 2, so we're going to count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we start going back up. So over 1 thread, up 2. And then count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 1 thread and up 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 1 thread and up 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it meets its buddy upstairs. You're going to skip the next stitch because it's shared. So from that next stitch, you're going to count down 2 and over 1. Then cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, down 2 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you have trouble with your thread knotting or something like that, you can use the thread conditioner. You can just run it over some beeswax. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll help it. Okay, we're going to come down 2 and over 1. That's our center leg. Let's check it. It is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we go back up. This is pretty, isn't it? I love this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, 4. One, two, three, 4. Okay, now we're at the shared legs. We want to come over 1 and down 2 from the bottom of that one. And that should give us 1, 2, 3, 4. A time to join right there. Okay, over 1 thread, down 2. All right, got a little knot in the thread there. Now, when that happens, you won't want to yank too hard because you'll distort all your stitches. You can take your nail and kind of rub it like I did, and it came out. If it's a big enough knot, you can put your needle through it and pull it, and it'll come out. If you can't get it out without doing something crazy, then just pull it through to the back, and, you know, you might have to pull it through a few times till you get it to get lined up against the fabric, and you can just leave it back there. This is, you know, it depends on what you're doing with it. A tiny little knot like that on the back wouldn't be a big deal. I know some of you gasped. It's true, though. 1, 2, 3, 4. And people who've stitched a long time, I guarantee you have left a lot of knots on the back. Come over 1 and down 2. I will tell you this, too. In Italy, and some of you may be in Italy, I learned to hem stitch. Well, I take that back. My mentor, Susan Green Davis, learned to hem stitch from some Italian ladies, and she taught me. She's an American. But the Italians start a lot of things with knots. And I saw a lot of Italian stitching when I was touring over there with Susan one time. See, that's in the same place. We don't want to do that. And sure enough, there were definitely, no, it wasn't. That was the right spot. Okay, let's just count this. Come over 1 thread from the bottom and up 2. It's hard because that one was loose. There we go. And there's definitely knots on the back. 3, 4. And the Italians are wonderful stitchers when it comes to hem stitching. And they start most of their hem stitches with a knot. So there's a place for knots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as long as they don't distort what your stitching looks like on the front, or they don't cause the fabric to be under stress so that it's going to wear over time, they're not really mission critical one way or the other. Although some things almost do have to be started with a knot. So 1, 2 over 1. I'm not saying to start things with a knot, don't get me wrong, but if you have a knot that you have to bury on the back, it's not going to kill anybody. I hope. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 2 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that should be the center stitch. Let's check it. It is. Now we're coming back up. So we're over 1 and up 2. See how my thread's getting kind of twisted. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, 4. This one's going to meet. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's it. I don't know if you can hear that little girl outside. She's really tiny. She's walking with her dad. They're walking down the street. My little town of Weaverville is doing this. Oh, yeah, they found it. They're doing this sweet little thing where all of the shops and merchants have put either stuffed bears or pictures of bears or something like that in the windows, so that as the young families are out walking around, they have something to entertain their children with. And so they go on a kind of a hunt for the bears. And of course, we have a squirrel in the window, but my brother is a photographer, and he does a lot of landscapes and animals. And so there's pictures of bears up there. And so I took one of his pictures and turned it around. So they walk by all the time and spot the bears. So that's what she was just doing. It was fun. Okay, so we're done with this. And it certainly is delicate. If I used a thicker thread or I used a finer linen, it would have been fine either way. So I'm actually not going to end this thread because I'm going to jump in the middle now. So on the first one, let's do a long cross. Let's do what we did before. I will run it under to do that. And I've still got that away knot there to deal with. Maybe let's fix that first. We kind of already got it caught a little bit. So it's kind of ran under. if I can pull it out. Yeah, if it's not pierced. Okay. Let's see. I can't see well enough to do that, but I got it. Let's tidy this up. Okay, this is the away knot, what's left of it. I'm going to snip that off. Okay, now let's get back to our other stuff. So, I'm going to run it under because I'm going to start at the bottom. Okay. Now, if you remember the last time we came up 3 threads from the center stitch, and then we covered 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me. And then we crossed it. And I'm going left to right because I'm traveling that way. See how pretty that is? And that would be pretty. I could do that all the way across. I'm not going to, though. What I am going to do is I'm going to run this under here for a minute. And I'm going to pause right here. And I'm going to go get some beads. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some beads in there. So I'll be right back. So you guys just hang tight. Okay. So I found some beads. I didn't have any in my stash that were the right color, but I found some in the shop. I think these will be great for it. Beads are a tricky thing. I really should be using a tacky bob right now because when you open these beads, you're at a huge risk of just throwing them all over the floor. I'll give you another tip. If you've got, you remember those old vellum blankets, like, I don't know if you had them on your bed or grandmother or whatever, but they feel kind of velvety. Velux or something. I forget what they're called. Anyway, those make great bead mats. So, if you have an old one of those you want to cut up, or you can find a new one. I know I found one time at Walmart. Those make fabulous bead mats. I am looking at some colors here. I think I'm going to do every other one. I think I'm going to do a cross, or maybe I might show you another stitch to do in the middle of that. I want a few out. Anyway, definitely the first one I'm going to use is going to be this kind of purplish pink, and I'm going to use the orangey one. I'll put them over here on my way for a minute. The size of the bead you use is up to you. I intentionally got a little bit bigger bead on this 21 count. Alright, so I'm going to anchor that bead right in the center of that. So I have already kind of came underneath. I am going to, we know that this is the center, right? And so we're going to be coming up. So I found the center and I came out a thread on either side of the center. So, because I'm going to anchor this bead. So here's where I came up. I'm going to count over 1, 2, and up 1, 2. I'm going to anchor it like a cross stitch, okay? So you see what I did there? I went diagonal, over 2 threads, up 2 threads. That's just the way you do a cross stitch. Now, I'm going to come up 2 threads underneath where I came down, just like you would to close a cross stitch. And I'm going to come back through the belly of that bead, and I'm going to take it back down 2 threads above. All right, so that's exactly in the center, and it's anchored. Now, that's a big bead. I can go through it again if I want to, and I think I will because he's a big old boy. He's big boned, as we'd say down south. So I'm going to go back there. I'm going to do exactly the same stitch. I'm going to make a cross stitch. Go through the same holes that I did to put him on there, to anchor him down. Now, normally I don't do it twice, because when you do it twice, you can see the thread more. Okay, but he's on there. He's not going anywhere now. So he's good. So that's pretty. I like it. Maybe I'm drawn to the purple because of this purple above, but he also goes with these kind of sunset colors here. All right, so I'm going to run underneath. Now, if you decide you want to know what color bead this is, just in case. This is a Mill Hill bead, a size number 6, and the color code is 16618. And it's kind of a frosted, antique-y looking bead. But 16618, size number 6. Okay. So I'm coming underneath here. Right. And now I'm going to do, what do we want to do? I think I'm going to do a Smyrna cross. Someone teach you how to do a Smyrna cross. Okay, sorry about that. The phone died. We had to recharge and come back. So I was going to show you how to do, I think, a Smyrna cross. And to do a Smyrna cross, there's a little trick that I remember. It's going to cover 4 threads. So we're, again, going to put it right in the center. So actually, it's going to cover, let's see. Yeah, we're going to make it cover 4 threads, and it's going to be center, right in the center of this thing. Don't you love how I wing it? So I'm going to start right here. It's on the third leg up from the bottom, right where that stitch ends, right there. And I'm going to count over 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the top of that stitch. And then I'm going to count up 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And I'm going to go down up there. Got a little knot. I'm going to fix it. Okay. And I'm just going to make a big X. I'm going to come up right there, which was 4 threads over from here. And I'm going to go down up here, which is 4 threads up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a square of 4. Okay, so I've made a big X. Now, the way to think of a Smyrna cross, one of my shop owners that I used to go to her shop in Raleigh, her name was Sarah Haynes. She taught us this. First, you zip up his pants, and then you put on his belt. And so you come to the center of these 4 stitches. So you come over 2 threads on the bottom. 1, 2. And you come up right here. And you go from the bottom to the top. And then you go down in the center of the 2 threads on top. So 1, 2. So you've zipped up his pants, and then you want to put on his belt. So you go to the center on this side, which is 2 threads from either of the other 2 stitches. And then you go down 2 threads up. So 1, 2. Right? And you put on his belt. So that's a little Smyrna cross. So I think that's pretty. And then I'm going to come under, and I'm going to put another bead on. So you can kind of see, I'm just going to go straight across the middle because at this point we've got stitching in the middle. It's going to be okay. You can see you can really do anything in the middle of these stitches. It's a fun little thing. Okay. And so now this is a smaller little X here that sits right in the middle to hold the bead. All right, so I'm going to pick up a bead, and I think I'm going to get one that's a little more gold this time. And I just picked it up on the needle. Then I'm going to count 1, 2. Let's see, I don't think I came up in the right spot. Well, I did not. I'm going to drop my bead off and go back down because we want him to be right in the center. So let's see where we did this other guy. Okay. He's going to be right here. So if you look at the center leg and you count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threads from the top of the center leg, and then you come over 1 thread, that's where you want to start to lay this bead. So from the top of this center leg, you counted up 5 threads, and then you came over to the left 1. And then you pick up your bead, and then you count over 1, 2 threads and up 1, 2 threads. Okay, now it's in the center. See how it's laying sideways? That's what we don't want, and we want it to be really secure. So we're going to actually count over 2 threads on the bottom here. 1, 2, come back up. And we're going to go back through the belly of the bead. Now that made it pretty tight, and then we're going to go down 2 threads above this other thread. 1, 2. That positions this bead right in the center. We're going to kind of pull him pretty tight in there. And then I'm going to, like I did the last time, I'm going to do it again to make it very secure because it's kind of a big old bead sitting in the middle out of nowhere on its own. And go down up here. Come down here. Go through the belly of the bead. Knot I picked up somewhere. And then go back down into that same hole where you went down before. Alright, that bead's very secure. It's not going anywhere. Now, I'm going to jump over into the middle of the next diamond. I'm going to run this under as I go and pull it kind of tight. And I'm going to do another cross. Okay. So remember on that cross, we started at the center and we counted up 3 threads. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go over 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's consistent with the book. Okay. And then I'm coming up on the left-hand side in the center, which is 3 threads down from the top or 3 threads up from the bottom. Cross over 2 threads and over that center part of the cross and go back down. So, and that's perfectly centered. And you can look at page 13 if you need that diagram for that. And I'm going to run it under again to get to the center of the next one. And then I'm going to do another bead. And I'm going to look at colors this time a little bit closer and see. Because I want something that's different from the one that I laid down before. So, let's see what this one looks like. It might be. That one's a different color still. See, that one's kind of gold. But I think I'm going to go back with the red. I think I'm going to use this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up where I know I need to be. So we said come up from the center. We count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threads. Hard for me to do with that bead on. I'm going to take it off. Okay. So from the center of the top of the center leg, count up 5 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then over 1. There's some people outside who are not social distancing very well. Okay, and then count over 2 threads, up 2 threads, and go down. Okay. Now, just so I can see where to come up at, I'm going to come up 2 threads over or 2 threads down. From that other one. I'm going to go through the belly of the bead. And then I'm going to go back down up here and just finish the cross, right? So now that bead sits right in the middle. That one's not as purple as I wanted it to be. It's okay though. Which is okay. All right, and so I'm going to run underneath and get to the other side. Okay, and on this one, I'm going to do a Smyrna cross again. So for that Smyrna, it was interesting. Remember, we went over 4 threads, but if you look at this one from the center leg, if you count the center leg, 1, 2, 3, it's on the 3rd leg up. So we'll start at the center leg and start at the very top of the 3rd leg up, because we want to go over 4. So that's right there. 1, 2, 3, and it's at the top of that 4th leg. And then we're going to count over 4 threads, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 4 threads, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that should put us at the bottom of the 3rd leg coming down the diagonal from the top. And then you're just going to start directly underneath that one, 4 threads. Come over here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and go down, right? And then you want to zip up his pants. You want to start right in the center, so it's right above the center thread or over 2 threads from either leg. And then go down 4 threads up, so over 2 threads up here. So we've zipped up his pants, and now we want to put on his belt. So you want to start right in the center here, which is down 2 threads, and then go over 4, which is in the center of the other 2, and that's it. So there you have it, and that's where I'm going to end this decorative stitch. I'm going to end my thread on the back. I'm going to run it under a few threads. Okay. Snip it off. So that's that. So I hope you like that. I mean, that was my interpretation of it. I was just kind of winging it. So that is, the decorative one. This was the one where we learned to do it. I think they're both quite beautiful. I hope you play around with it and, find a way to do it that you're happy with and, just enjoy learning. But this shows you a different way you can adapt it. I mean, you can do tons of stuff with that. You could put it on sleeves of a shirt. You can make a decorative ribbon across the bottom of your other cross stitch piece, like instead of putting a piece of ribbon on it. Like if you were going to frame it and you had some space at the bottom, you could run something with matching threads across the bottom like this. There's so many different applications you could do. You could make a bookmark. There's so many pretty things you could do with that. So I hope you enjoy it, and we will see you back for lesson number 5. Thanks. Bye.